Hey guys, welcome back to another educational video. This is the youtube.com/GenericTechSupport channel. If you guys are watching this, you should know that everything we do is for educational value. All the software is purchased or used under legal availability. This channel does not promote or suggest the use of pirated software. All links are located on the Tech Guy 1 wiki page. This channel, again, is for educational purposes only. Like and subscribe for more content. I provide you guys the best practices or best experience and insight into doing things, but I don't know everything. So if you guys know something that I don't, please leave it in the comments. Thanks again for watching. Hey guys, so in previous videos we reviewed older operating systems. And I do have a love for those older operating systems. They're really what I started my whole IT world on. It's what I cut my teeth on, right? You know, I learned the 2000 operating system, 2003 server operating system, NT4s. That's really where I started this. Now, I have tinkered with and screwed around with machines since I was a kid. And remember the first day my father brought home a computer, which was an AT&T PC6300. And I'll tell you right now that I don't know if I would be in the field I'm in now without my father bringing that computer home. You know, at the time, you really didn't get too much as far as what you could do. It was world-changing when they came out, but it wasn't like it is today. There was no real communication tool with it. Email wasn't really a thing. There was modems, but you know, it was bought. It wasn't very fast. You didn't really transmit that much data, but it was a game-changing device. So the reason I decided to start this video this way is because I think now the next thing is AI. And the integration of AI services and structure into systems. And you know, as an IT person, I should be thrilled about this, about the possibility, the functionality of using a tool so strong that really what it does is combines multiple ideas into a single solution or process. But I don't think that the process that they're going about integrating it in is very smart, in that I don't feel like the development is there yet, where we have the security figured out, where we have a nation, a world-defined process in place, where people aren't replaced by virtualization platforms or virtualization of people. You know, I mean, AI can't replace the human. It just can't. Anybody that has driven a new car recently would be able to tell you that AI can't replace a human. With that said, I think 2025 server is probably going to be the first real operating system where AI is completely integrated into the OS from Microsoft. So this is a game-changing operating system, if it works, if it's strong structurally, if it's secure, if it provides the functionality where if you don't want to use AI and you want to disable it, it's disabled. If you want to enable it, you have control over what you're enabling. That's what 2025 should be. The question is it that? So let's install it, let's run through it, and let's take a look at the differences between 2022 server and 2025. Now, something to keep in mind is that this is technically a release 2. And what that means is in Microsoft world is we had Windows 2003 server, then we had 2003 R2 or release 2. Then we had 2008 server. Then we had 2008 R2, which was the release 2 version. And then we had 2012. And then 2012 R2, which was the release 2. And then 2016. And then 2019 is technically the release 2. So what do we have now? Well, now we have 2022 server. And this, 2025, is release 2. So I expect the release 2 version to be a polished version of the original release. Because if you look historically, all the release 2 versions of the operating systems are always the more polished ones, the more popular OSs. And that holds true too in our Windows desktop environments. So without further ado, let's jump into this operating system and see what it actually provides us. Okay, so I'm only going to record the screens that are different. So this is a different screen. So we're going to install English in our current currency. We're going to use English United States. We're going to click on Next and Next. I would like to install Windows Server or repair my PC. Now it's interesting that they put this here because there's nothing else on this drive. It's a blank drive. So we could tell that it's not using any kind of function to search the drive to see if we have any Windows files on it. But we're going to just click to agree that everything should be deleted, and we'll continue. Now generally in a server environment, typically speaking, I won't install the desktop experience because maybe post, I guess it was about 2019 server when we started to get into the 22 and now 25, the GUI experience has been a boat anchor. Now, with that said, I'm hoping that 25 will be better, but it's based off of Windows 11, so probably not. Generally, when you install without the GUI, it's more structurally sound and stable. When you install the GUI on a server operating system, you know, it's not generally as good. Even in 2019 and 16 server, the core operating systems using the RSAT tool from a desktop was a better idea, but I digress. Let's jump into this now and do the desktop experience and click on next. We're going to accept. We're accepting the log. Keep in mind, this is a trial key. We're allowed to use this. We're also using this as a preview. So we're totally able to run this as a test legally. So we're going to click on next. Actually, before we do that, let's see if we could modify the partition table. Like maybe we could do NTFS fast or slow, or maybe we could change, you know, between MBR and GPT. And we can't. I mean, why would I expect that? We are, after all, on a server platform. So let's just click on next. So it gives me a recap. We're going to click on install. So I want to point out something, that all these menus they put in the servers are really unnecessary, and that the installation process should be much less involved. Microsoft has a tendency of filling the gap with all these questions and pretty colors and all that other crap, but it's not necessary in a server. I mean, realistically, the vast majority of people are going to deploy this. Likely will just deploy this through the server management console, and they'll never see any of this garbage anyway. They'll automate the actual installation of the server. So why they waste their time doing all this pretty colorful nonsense is beyond me. But, you know, again, this is a preview, so let's take a look and keep an open mind. Okay, so we're back on our 2025 server. It's going to ask us for a password. So I'm just going to create a password. We're going to click on Finish. Now, I will install VM tools, assuming I can, on 2025 server to get this full screen, but I figured for the sake of this, it should be okay just so we could see it. Okay, so we can see our initial configuration here, which requires Control-Alt-Delete to log in. That's how we can tell the difference between a Windows 11 and a Windows Server. Server will always require Control-Alt-Delete. Windows 11, generally, you just slide the screen up and then you get into the operating system. Let's, again, you could change this through group policy, but I'm talking out of the box. Let's log in. Now this should take me directly into Windows. And it does not. So maybe interestingly here is that we appear to only have two options. We could send them required only data or included optional. And I'm going to be honest, so I'll leave this here for a second so you guys can pause it if you want to read it. Same for this one. I do find it interesting here that we don't have a way to opt out. So in other words, we have to provide Microsoft with data, which means that we've widened our security footprint in our server operating system, which is not necessarily a good thing. Because now, not only do we have to secure our data, but we have to be hopeful that Microsoft has secured their data, because if not, we'll leak our data. So right off the bat, I'm going to tell you that this is not something that I would ever contend with or be okay with. I would immediately say, nope, 2022 server, and then if I'm forced to do it, Linux. Because I don't want to provide Microsoft with any data from my server or infrastructure. Because the idea is to keep the server and infrastructure footprint small so it's easier to secure. Make it bigger and wider where you're including Microsoft's infrastructure. Whew, that's a lot to take on, especially as a single IT person. But for the sake of this, so we could just take a look at this operating system, let's accept and continue. Okay, so now we're in the OS. And something I want to point out immediately is the fact that this is the pop-up we get, which I know it's part of the Server Manager, and we've seen them in the previous versions of the Server Manager about, using integration services. But to me, this is an ad. I don't like ads on servers. I don't need somebody posting advertisements for additional products that I should purchase. It's not necessary for me. Especially as a server administrator, I already know this exists. If I wanted it, I would have it. Right? So, why does this need to be a pop-up on the screen on my initial logon? Now, I understand we could click Don't Show This Again, but the fact that it exists in the first place is kind of annoying. Okay, so before I do anything, I'm actually going to change the Start menu location, and then after that, we're going to install VM tools and reboot the system. So, I hate the fact that the Start menu is in the middle on Windows 11. I'm sure many people agree with that since we've become accustomed to the Start menu being on the left-hand side of a Windows operating system since Windows 95. I don't know why Microsoft decided this was a smart decision, but then again, it's Microsoft. So let's click on other system tray icons and see what we got here. Let's look at tray behavior. Okay, so we're going to change this to left. And for the time being, we're just going to exit out of here. I'm going to install the VM tools. I'll reboot the system. I'll get you guys reconnected. Okay, guys, so we're back up and running. And we are on our 2025 preview server. You can see we have an evaluation license. I've already re-IP'd the system as an internal IP configuration. I decided that rather than having you guys sit here and wait, I did run all the updates on the system to bring it up to the latest build revision, so that way when we run our tenable scan against this thing and compare it to a 2022 server, we won't have to sit here all day and wait for this thing to finish. Okay, guys, so I want to jump into this operating system real quick before we jump into 2025. So this is 2022, which is technically the release 1 version of the Windows 11 server family, whereas 2025 is technically our release 2 of the Windows 11 server family. So this being release 1 version, it does share similarities of both Windows 10 and Windows 11. The kernel, however, is Windows 11. Now, something with Windows 11 that we all know is like the death of Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer is technically gone in Windows 11, right? We don't have access to IE anymore. We had, at one point or another, like an IE integration mode where we were able to run IE packages in Microsoft Edge, but even that has pretty much been end-of-lifed. It still functions in some way, shape, or form if you have policy to do so, but the out-of-the-box configuration doesn't really exist anymore, and that's okay. That's IE. IE was around for a long, long time, and it reached the end of its usability, and Microsoft decided not to develop it any longer, so they ended it. But what they didn't do is they didn't change some of the terminology. So in 2022 server, where Internet Explorer is technically end of life, we have Internet Explorer Enhanced Security configuration. Now, I bring this up because this configuration existed in 2019. They really stripped Internet Explorer out, but it still exists somewhat as the back end, just to fulfill this control configuration. So, with that said, how it works is that if you get infected with something, we could check real quick to make sure, yeah, so it does still exist, there's Internet Explorer. If you get infected with something and it tries to launch a web browser, you would have your default browser configuration set to Internet Explorer. And what would happen is Internet Explorer would use this enhanced security configuration setting here, and it would block the ability for Internet Explorer to access any websites, except for ones that you whitelisted in Internet Explorer. So basically you had to create a trust of trusted websites that you could access. So this kept the system secure, because you could add in the policy configuration to not allow anybody to turn this junk off, which in turn means that anything that launches a browser as a default will automatically default app launch the Internet Explorer configuration and block its ability to communicate to the outside world, which is something you want in a server. You don't want a server that can randomly just access the internet. It shouldn't be used as your desktop. Again, in traditional speak. We've done videos in the past on using 2022 Server as your desktop, as a Windows 11 replacement, and I still think that that's probably a better choice over Windows 11 from a security standpoint, as well as from a daily driver Microsoft built-in spyware standpoint. Windows Server 2022 is still better than Windows 11 is. But Windows Server 2022 does have its issues. It's not a particularly secure server. It's got a lot of bugs. It's got a lot of problems. It's got a lot of security issues, more so than the majority of server operating systems that have ever existed. So from a server perspective, it's not ideal as being a server. But with that said, Internet Explorer, enhanced security configuration. And the question is since 2025 is out, have they fixed this where they removed this stupid IE enhanced security and now integrated it in Microsoft Edge? Okay, so now we're back on our 2025 server. And let's take a look real quick at our local configuration here and see it. No, figures. So we still have IE enhanced security configuration. But the question is, does IE exist? Nope, it sure doesn't. It sure only shows up as Microsoft Edge. Now the question is it a wording issue? So in other words, does this now link to Microsoft Edge? Or is this a situation where it's leftover from the Windows 10 and prior operating system, or Windows Server 2019 and prior operating system, really 22 and prior operating system, where Internet Explorer were optional? So let's go into like the settings menu real quick and see what happens. So we went to settings. Let's go into our configuration here for, let's say, Windows updates. Let's do advanced options, restart apps. And I just happen to know that we have more about sign-in options in here, which is going to launch a browser. So if this works still with IE enhanced security in Microsoft Edge, I should be able to click on this link and it should not take me to the website. It should generate an error indicating that the system can't access the website and I need to add an exception to access the site. So bear with me for a couple seconds here so I can click through this nightmare of Microsoft Edge. We're going to actually close this out. We'll start off fresh. So I'll click more options. So it is slow. I don't know if that means it's being blocked. Nope. So I can access the websites. So that means that they have reduced the security of Server Manager for enhanced security configuration, basically making this option useless on this 2025 server. Now, I know the elephant in the room here is going to be a question that I intend to answer here for you guys, which is, can we uninstall Microsoft Edge? And I don't mean like through the convoluted ways that we've done in the past with the client side, where we had to jump through certain patches to remove things in order to strip Microsoft Edge out. But can we actually just do add remove programs and uninstall Microsoft Edge? Let's test that out. So let's go to right click on start. We'll go to run. We'll do control. Let's do uninstall a program. Let's choose Microsoft Edge and click uninstall. All right, guys, so I'm expecting you guys to put a comment down there and then see a whole bunch of edited ones as to whether or not we can uninstall this. My guess is that we'll click the uninstall and it will work because we're on a server platform. But Internet Explorer did not uninstall from server platforms. So it's possible that it won't uninstall. And then once it is uninstalled, what does that look like when we click on that same link? Do we get an error message? Does it require us to install a browser? Does it give us the option to install the browser? Does it launch like maybe a Microsoft console of some kind to download and install the browser off the App Store? What does it actually do? All right, guys, here we go. It's gone. So it looks like we can uninstall Microsoft Edge. So now we have no browser on the server, which, I don't know, it would be nice even if it would have just popped up with, hey, if you install this, this is the last browser on the system, you may be in trouble. But the reality is that servers shouldn't have browsers on them anyway, so, I mean, it's kind of not a bad thing. It's interesting, though, that this is still part of the operating system and does nothing. So let's now go back into our settings. Let's click this and see what happens. All right, let's choose that. That's fine. Well, we don't have any configuration that blocks it. So that's interesting. So now the system, because it doesn't have a browser, thinks that we added a policy or a configuration to the system to block its ability to access the web, which is not true. So this is not actually a very good or useful pop-up message. Perhaps not surprisingly. Okay, guys, so before we start ripping this thing apart, which, trust me, I really want to do, let's run a Tenable scan on it real quick. And let's do a comparison between this and a 2022 server to see what we see. Okay, guys, so before we jump into this, I do want to warn you that Server 2022 is not pretty. So keep in mind that a Server 2022 configuration that has all the policy settings and everything else on it would look much different. But this is out of the box. So if you're running an infrastructure where you have a domain controller with nothing else configured on it, it's out of the box configuration, then chances are your scan would look worse than what I'm about to show you. So just be prepared for that if you're in a business situation, it's not good if you're running a server that hasn't been hardened, especially if it's 2022 server. Because again, Windows 11 is kind of a disaster. So this is just important to keep in mind. So let's jump into the 2022 evaluation server that we have here, which is literally an out-of-the-box with all Windows updates applied. Oof. So we could see we have 34 critical, 99 high, 12 medium, and 169 infos, which is brutal. So we have 144 counts of Microsoft Edge issues, and they're all critical. Now this system was updated today as of 30 minutes ago. So Microsoft Edge, clearly not something you want installed on your server. So then we have Microsoft Bulletin for WinVerify Trust Signature issue. We have the non-signing issue, which is on all the operating systems. We're well aware of that. We have ICMP timestamp disclosure, not a big deal. We have a lot. There's a lot here. A whole lot. So we already know Windows 11 is a disaster. So this is, again, perhaps not surprising that this is a disaster, just like Windows 11. I mean, here we go. Microsoft Windows multiple issues. There's 76 configuration issues in here. And again, infos aren't necessarily failures, but they are things that you're supposed to go through the STIG and actually configure and harden so these things don't show up in these scans. So again, we could argue that these are just configurations that are missing because it's an out-of-box configuration of a system. But these highs and criticals and stuff from Microsoft Edge, not something that I would want on my server. But let's take a look and see how this compares to our 2025 box. Okay, so let's jump in our preview server. And in here you can see it's a lot better. So we have absolutely, without a doubt, secured more of the operating system in 2025. And now this is still a beta, so this could get still better yet. Because again, preview is technically a beta. It's not a release yet. With that said, there is quite a bit of configuration stuff that still needs to be done in this operating system. I mean, 162 changes is nothing to blink at. But we don't have those criticals anymore. And I think the reason why is because we don't have Edge installed on this box anymore, right? We removed it. We stripped it. It's gone. So we're not going to see all the Edge vulnerabilities in the operating system. So that might be something to keep in mind, is that if you're going to run the 2025 server or even the 2022 server, is to uninstall Edge, because it is not something you want to have on your operating system in a server environment. So guys, I'm going to end this preview video here, but there will be a part 2 to this video. where we're going to go through the configuration of this operating system and specifically deep dive into the settings to see out of the box what kind of security functions and features 2025 server offers. Then we might go even a part 3 or part 4 where we'll create a domain controller. We'll go through some of the group policy changes to see what the differences are. Maybe we'll build out a print server, file server, see what the file replication services look like in 2025 server, and really deep dive into the security configuration of the server and apply some policies to it and see if we could lock this thing down to the point where we get nothing in our scan. It's something that I would strive for with the 2025 release because already we're looking better than we were, but perhaps we're only looking better because we don't have Microsoft Edge installed on this thing. Might be a good idea to strip Microsoft Edge off that 22 server in the future videos and then run another scan to see if the change really makes that much of a difference. I presume that it does because of the amount of stuff that was listed under the critical and high alerts in the Microsoft Edge application, which is an enormous security hole. So if you're using Microsoft Edge, Google Chrome is free. Firefox works great. I would use any of those things over Microsoft Edge, especially since Microsoft can't seem to secure it themselves by Windows updates. It would kind of be reckless to run Microsoft Edge and think that you're actually using a secure browser. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Just so you guys know, I'm still remote, still not in front of my typical computer at home. As a result, these videos, they're going to be fewer than I would like them to be, but I'm still dealing with family with medical stuff. I do have updates on the Granite XP build. I have been working on that over the past couple months, trying to get that released. We're getting close. Finally fixed the certificate issues in the operating system. I should have a video on that to release here in the next couple weeks. Hopefully you guys are all doing well. Leave a comment down below. Let me know how you guys are doing. I haven't talked to you guys all in a while and curious how everybody is. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the fact that we're transitioning into fall now and getting out of that hot. If any of you guys are down in like the Florida area or even in Tennessee where you got hit by that hurricane, prayers to your family, and I hope all you guys are doing good. And leave something in the comments if there's something that we can do as IT, as our IT community, to help you guys out if you guys are down in that area and need to get help in order to get your infrastructures back up. We will gladly help you. All right, thanks guys. Take it easy.